Hello, and hello. This week, probably a little bit shorter lecture because we don't have a ton to talk about, but I do want to fully introduce you to the DSM 5 and see what happens. I wanted to show you this shirt. I was shopping at Kroger. This is not an advertisement for Kroger. But I was shopping at Kroger the other day and saw this shirt, and I wanted to take a picture of it because I thought it was bananas. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. We have had several versions of this over the course of our time as clinicians. So the DSM 3, 4, and 4 text revision had two designations, substance abuse and substance dependence. And as you go out into the world, you will probably see substance abuse and substance dependence in your goings on as you figure that out. Um, so now what we have is it has all been streamlined, and the DSM 5 and the DSM 5 TR text revision has streamlined it down into just substance use disorder. Now, why the difference? Well, what we wanted to do initially was say, is this abuse or is this dependence? And that kind of got a little messy, right? Because, if, someone could just have one of these and it be considered alcohol abuse. Well, sometimes even after drinking, you have a hangover, and it isn't that you necessarily abused it or that you had too much. It's just maybe you're a lightweight. No, I'm kidding. It's just maybe sometimes alcohol hits us in the wrong way sometimes. Or maybe, it doesn't, like, we have a drink or we do a substance and it just, for whatever reason, has more of an effect on us than it once did. So it made it to where, trying to understand what was really going on with somebody. And further, it made it to where, we could put alcohol abuse with kind of anything, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a problem. Okay. So, have you had times where you ended up drinking more or longer than you're intended? Well, yeah, but does that mean that I have alcohol dependence? I mean, it's just a criteria. And of course you need any of these three, but it makes it to where the area is just kind of gray between what could this be versus what could this be. And sometimes people can abuse alcohol and not necessarily be dependent, but then there's sometimes people could be dependent but not necessarily abuse it. So I could be alcohol dependent while not abusing alcohol. And so that would make it just made it very messy. And also, not only did you have to know all of these, each substance had one of these as well. So you would have to know all of the little criteria for all of the different ones. And that just became a lot. So what they did is when they made the DSM 5 in 2011, they started to say, okay, well, what if we just kind of streamlined all of this, okay, and made it to where we just have one thing called substance use disorder, okay, and that's what this is, okay. So what you're going to need is the presence of at least two of these symptoms in the last year. Now, again, as I talked about before, we're just looking at the last calendar year. So if they have had a history of some of this stuff, like back in, 2004, they had some of this stuff. Well, it doesn't really matter now. It's good information for their history, but it doesn't really matter now. I would see clinicians who would meet with a patient and they had a methamphetamine use 10 years ago, and they've not used in 10 years, but the clinician would diagnose him with methamphetamine use disorder. Like, what? It's not a thing. So it made it really kind of messy. So, but what we're looking at is the last year, calendar year. Okay. So the presence of at least 2 of these symptoms, and here it says alcohol use disorder, but it can just be substance use disorder or methamphetamine use disorder or stimulant use disorder or any of the disorders you can put in here. I think I talk about polysubstance. If I don't, I'll get back to it. So in the past year, have you had times where you ended up drinking more or longer than you intended? Okay. That's pretty straightforward. So, I only intend to drink 2 drinks and I drink 6, right? Or I was only going to drink, like I only wanted to drink for the weekend or for the night, but I ended up drinking that night and the next night and the next night, and now I can't stop, right? So had I been drinking more or longer than you intended, okay? Been drinking more than once, more than once wanted to cut down or stop drinking or tried to, but couldn't. So this could be, I tried to go to rehab and I went to detox, or I went to rehab and I got out and I was clean and I was not using, and then I used again. Or I just decided tonight is going to be because not everybody does sobriety with rehab. So tonight I'm going to stop drinking, and then like a week later you're drinking again. So I'm trying to stop. I'm trying to cut back. Okay. I've been normally drinking like a 6-pack. Tonight I'm only going to drink a 3. I'm only going to drink 3, but then I end up drinking 6. Like, right. So wanted to cut down or stop, tried to, but couldn't. And this could even be, I want to stop drinking, but I can't. It doesn't actually have to turn into like I've actually done it. It could be like I've decided I'm not going to drink tonight and then end up drinking. Okay. Spent a lot of time drinking or being sick or getting over the after effects. Right. So, I started at 9:00, wanted to end at 12, but then I'm still going. Right. Or I'm just so much of my time is spent drinking, right? I could be doing some other things, but I'm just spending a lot of time drinking. Or the hangovers, the withdrawals, getting over the after effects, just stop being sick. Okay. Number 4 talks about the cravings. So that I wanted a drink so bad that I couldn't think of anything else. It consumes my mind. That's the cravings piece. Okay. Found that drinking or being sick from drinking often interfered with taking care of your home or family, or caused job troubles or school problems. So this can be in a variety of different things. So home or family. So I'm drinking so much that I'm just not spending time with my kids because I'm drinking so much. I stay out in the garage and I don't spend time with my family. With my job, I'm drinking or using that I'm showing up late to work frequently, or I'm irritable from the hangover, and so I'm not like really into my job. Or school problems. So for 20, the kids in college, like you're drinking so much, you're going out to all the mixers on campus or whatever that you're not able to focus on school. You're not able to complete your work. You're falling behind. And so it is interfering in your life in a variety of ways, meaningful ways. Okay. Number 6, continue to drink even though it was causing trouble with your family or friends. So this is my wife or husband is just on me so much and we fight all the time about my drinking. It is chaos, right? Or my friends are basically on me like, dude, you got to stop drinking. Like this is just getting out of hand. There's just kind of chronic problems associated with the relationships in your life. Okay. So people are just on you all the time about the fact that you're drinking or using or whatever. And somebody said something to you like, bruh, you got to quit. Number 7, given up or cut back on activities that were important or interesting to you or gave you pleasure in order to drink. So this could be, I used to go to a Bible study and now I'm going to the liquor store and getting drunk. Or this was, I used to be part of my school's PTA, but because I'm having hangovers and because I can't quit drinking, then I've stopped doing that. I used to go hiking a lot, but now the only thing I really want to do is drink or use or whatever. I used to have money and the flexibility to be able to have savings and to be able to have financial stability, but now I'm finding that that is not a thing. Okay. Number 8, more than once gotten into situations while or after drinking that it increased your chances of getting hurt, such as driving, swimming, using machinery, walking, having unsafe sex. So I get drunk and get behind the wheel of a car. I got busted for a DUI. Or even if you didn't get popped for a DUI, you got behind the wheel of a car. Like, that's a problem, right? More than once. I'm frequently getting behind the wheel of a car while drunk. Or there are some people that, when I was working more exclusively with opioid use disorder, they would use their substance of choice, heroin, fentanyl, whatever, snort oxycodone, hydrocodone, and they would go work in their warehouse job where they were working a forklift. I actually had one of my patients that I was working with at North Key. So this was before I got to Journey Recovery Center, but this was 2014. That they got a really good job and they were still using, and they operated a forklift and crashed it into a I don't know, like a storage thing, storage shelving for like kind of like at Costco, like a big, or Sam's Club, like where they store all the extra stuff. Ran the forklift right into that and obviously lost their job. So like that's part of it. Swimming, I'm getting super drunk and old dude Matthew Perry, using ketamine and then getting into the hot tub and it creating just this like soothing thing. And then that's what ended up killing him. So, using machinery, walking in a dangerous area, having unsafe sex, um, you know, casual sex is obviously not a bad thing. But if it's something where I'm getting high and I'm just kind of doing whatever I'm doing, or I'm using and I'm just, I'm getting drunk to the point that I'm putting myself in very dangerous situations, that's problematic, right? That's a, obviously a different thing. Continued to drink even though it was making you feel depressed or anxious or adding to another health problem, or after having a memory blackout. So I've had a couple of patients that they know, 100% know, that they have a cirrhotic liver, and they continue to drink. I've had, not got, I've had in the past patients that had other problems with their kidneys, and they continue to drink, knowing that the liver's getting affected, their kidneys are getting affected. I've had some that know that their alcohol use leads to anxiety. They feel anxiety and they drink, but then as they get done drinking, they have more anxiety. It was strange, even though alcohol is a depressant. But I know that I'm anxious and I may have a heart problem, but I'm going to use cocaine, right? I'm talking a lot about alcohol here, but this is applicable for kind of anything, right? I know that I have these problems, and yet I'm going to continue to do it. I have hepatitis C, and I'm still going to keep using. I've had I've had infections in my in the injection side. I've had sepsis. Um, but I'm still going to keep doing this, so I'm still doing it, even though I've got this other health stuff that is just making it worse. Okay. Number 10, had to drink more than you once did to get the effect that you wanted, or found that your usual number of drinks had much less effect than before. That's tolerance, right? So before I just needed 3 beers. Now I need 5. Now I need 7. Now I need 12. I was only using a tenth. Now I'm using a quarter gram. Now I'm using half gram. Now I'm using a whole gram. So on and so on and so forth. And then 11, found that the effects of alcohol were wearing off. Found that when the effects of alcohol were wearing off, you had withdrawal symptoms, trouble sleeping, shakiness, restlessness, nausea, sweating, etc. Or sense things that were not there. Now, again, those are obviously symptoms of withdrawal, which you guys are familiar with. Again, 10 and 11 only count if they're not receiving medication-assisted treatment in some way. So if they're getting Suboxone, 10 and 11 don't count. Under the care of a medical person, not using Suboxone on the street. So 10 and 11 don't count if they're in medication-assisted treatment programming, or under the care of a physician receiving, Suboxone, Subutex, methadone, etc. But they all count with alcohol. And I should clarify, if they're receiving Suboxone for opiate use disorder, the opiate use disorder part, those two don't count. The other 9 do. Now, if they're receiving that, it does count for alcohol use disorder. Because sometimes I've had they're like, well, they're in withdrawal from alcohol, but they're on MAT. No, okay, they have withdrawal from alcohol. That's not the same. They're separate. Those are separate things. Okay. So again, the severity will be mild, which is the presence of 2 to 3 symptoms, moderate, which is 4 to 5 symptoms, and then severe, which is 6 or more. Okay. The other thing that we're looking at is early remission. So we would say alcohol use disorder, continuous, if it's within those 3 months, because they're still in their recovery period. Okay. So in early remission would be after 90 days, between 90 to 12 days, or between 90 to 12 months, 90 days to 12 months. That is no symptoms aside from craving. So a person can experience a craving and still be in early remission. Okay. Sustained remission would be 12 months, no symptoms aside from cravings. Okay. So when you're writing all these things out, this is important for your future vignettes. You didn't have to do it on this first one, but you will on these others moving forward. That if it's in early remission, they've gone 90 days to 365 days without symptoms. Okay. Within those 90 days, we're still considered continuous, even though somebody stopped using. Okay. Sustained remission is after 12 months. Okay. And again, you can have multiple diagnoses for multiple substances. That's also true. So you can have alcohol use disorder, you can have stimulant use disorder, whatever. There's also polysubstance use disorder, which is, I'm not really discriminating on what I'm using. I'm just using whatever's in front of me because I just want to change my whatever I'm feeling. So I don't have 1 or 2 things that I really gravitate towards. And someone can be free of using opiates. If they've had this polysubstance stuff, they can be free of using opiates, but still continue to use alcohol. That's a problem, right? That is, you can have multiple diagnoses, or if it's indiscriminate use, I'm just using whatever. We can do broad term substance use disorder, which can be used for all of these or broadly, or you can say polysubstance, meaning they've got a bunch of different things that they're struggling with. Both are appropriate. Okay. So here is how this would be presented. When you do a diagnosis, this is what it's going to look like. So opiate use disorder. Okay. So substance, severity, modifier. Okay. Substance, severity, modifier. Okay. So my substance, opiate use disorder, moderate severity. And then what is my modifier? Okay. Am I in a controlled environment, meaning I'm receiving residential care or I'm receiving medication assisted treatment? I am in treatment to take care of this, right? Alcohol use disorder, severe, meaning 6 or more of those criteria are met, but I'm in early remission. So I had six or more of those criteria, but it's been over 90 days since I've used. Okay. Polysubstance use disorder, moderate, meaning 4 to 5, continuous. So this person is still actively using. Okay. They're actively engaged in their stuff. Okay. Cocaine use disorder, severe, again, 6 or more of those criteria, but I'm in sustained remission, meaning it's been over 12 months since I've been using. Okay. So that's how this stuff is presented. Okay. And this will be what I'm looking for when you get to the diagnosis section for your vignette, for your clinical summaries. This is the stuff that I'm looking for. Okay. This is what I'll be grading you on. Okay. Remember the 4 categories, right? Impaired control, social problems, risky use, physical dependence. Okay. These are all lumped into their own things. And if you need a mnemonic, chew that cop. Okay. Chew that cop. It's a good way to remember what are my criteria? What are the 11 things that I'm looking at? Now, again, you'll have all your resources, you'll have all that stuff, but let's say you're meeting with somebody. One of the things that I did was I worked at a foster care agency, but I was in charge of a program called the Kids Recovery Program, and so I would go into some of these schools and I wouldn't have great internet access, and my whole focus was on kids that struggled with substance use disorder. And so I needed to remember what are my criteria, because I don't want to carry my DSM and I don't have great cell service. I guess I could write them down, but if I can remember this stuff, so chew that cop, then I can remember them a little bit better. And it's going to be there with me at all times. Okay. So there's that. This is all I got for this week. So like I said, a little bit shorter lecture, but I really wanted to go over the DSM-5 and its own thing. I could have lumped it into something else, but that would have made that lecture be really long, and I didn't want to do that. So I will see you next week. I hope you have a wonderful week. I'm actually going to go to Denver, on Saturday. So when you watch this, it would have been like yesterday or last Saturday. The 27th, to go watch the Bengals get beaten to death in Denver. And that's going to be a good time. But I'll be on Monday Night Football, and I'll be there with my friend who lives in Denver, and it'll be a good time. So, as always, Canadian geese are definitive proof that evil exists. Live mahalo. I will see you next time. Okay, bye.